Welcome back to Beyond the Classroom, LCCC's Outreach and Workforce Development's podcast about all things outreach and workforce development. You've heard us talk before, at least briefly, about the Business Studio at LCCC. Today, we have Lindsey Stutheit, the director of the Business Studio at LCCC, here to let us know everything the studio does, can do, will do, etc. Yeah. All right. So, Lindsey, what is the Business Studio at LCCC? How did it come about, and what's your basic mission?
Excellent. Well, I'll start with kind of how it came about, actually. So, we were very fortunate to receive some WIP funding, which is Wyoming Innovation Partnership funding, through the state. Those are state dollars, taxpayer dollars, specifically designed to meet various criteria as part of that WIP initiative. One of those pieces is entrepreneurship and getting small businesses healthy, that environment healthy in Wyoming, so that we can help create stronger communities, some economic development across the state that maybe would lead to larger companies that might be tech companies, things like that. So really, it's twofold. It's one, to help build our communities, and then to build some of the greater economic diversification across the state. So receiving that WIP money, excuse me, we have put that into a center that was designed to support small businesses and entrepreneurs in the Albany County and Laramie County area primarily. Um, as we've been doing it, we've also supported other communities statewide, and it is statewide funding, so we feel very comfortable extending it beyond our community college borders, especially when we're doing that in partnership with other colleges and state agencies. So that's kind of how it came about. And then what it is, it's taken, a good 6 months, as any new sort of organization or program takes, to really figure out what is the best use of those funds, and how we can be the best partner in this space. There's quite a few different entities that are already created and receiving state and federal funds to support small businesses. So we really had to take a look at the entire ecosystem and figure out what is missing or what needs duplicative efforts, so that we weren't duplicating something that really didn't need that, or leaving a gap in the ecosystem that needed filled, and we had the funds to do it. So looking at that entire ecosystem, not just in, again, Southeast Wyoming, but across the state, we found that there are essentially three things that have kind of been missing. And, if we do this podcast again in 3 months, there might be something else that pops up. There have been, due to some of the federal funding cuts and just pauses in grants, there have been different organizations that have cut either parts of their program, or have lost funding for certain pieces of what they do. And I think that will also shift what some of us that are still funded and in the space will end up molding ourselves to. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that a small business or an entrepreneur in the community really has the resources they need to go from ideation to full operational status. So, really, what we've identified as our key components, the first one is connecting people within the ecosystem. So, if we have a small business come up to us and they're like, I've been in business for 3 years, I'm about to hire a new employee, and I'm not sure how to do that, we immediately start connecting them to either free resources that can help them with that solution, or a consultant or maybe a mentor that can help them through that particular process. Myself and my coworker, Braden, neither of us are experts in all things business or all things entrepreneurship, but we have become experts in the ecosystem and who to connect them to, and how to follow up with them and provide that customer service when they're done meeting with, let's say, an accountant that's helping them think about the hiring paperwork that they need to do, the bookkeeping that they need to do. Then they come back to us and say, okay, now that I've done that, what else? And then we can send them to that what else, which might be Department of Workforce Service pre-hire grants, or might be internship grants for Department of Workforce Services. And then after they're done with that, helping them just move step by step. For some people, they come to us and they're in an industry that's, quite niche, and really needs something special. And then we work really hard to try and find them a mentor that can help them with whatever that is, because it maybe doesn't follow some of the traditional elements that a typical business would follow. So that's our first big thing is essentially helping create that plan and pathway through the ecosystem, which otherwise can be pretty overwhelming and lots of hidden resources. And not because anybody wants to hide them, it's just really difficult to find the right communication streams to get that information to people at the right time. And the second thing we've really focused on is providing financial resources for businesses. Not trainings, but literal finances. So if they need that accounting person to help them with bringing new people on their staff and what that looks like from a bookkeeping standpoint, um, we've helped cover the costs to some of those sorts of consulting fees. We've helped different companies uh, cover kind of bridge costs where maybe they have this exciting contract that's coming up in October, but in the meantime, they need to buy the materials required to be able to meet that new exciting contract, but they don't have the money yet. So helping get people through that process, and it's a grant, so it's not something that then they have to figure out how to pay back. So that's been another piece that we've really recognized is there's small business loans, and there are typically um, grants available either that are really small or that are really big, but there's not a lot in that middle ground. So we've tried to expand what we can offer people in that middle ground so that they can get the resources they need and quickly. So that's another thing that we've identified is a lot of processes can be, you have a 3-month application window and then a advisory committee gets together and that takes about 2 more months. And then it takes another month and a half for them to cut you the check or whatever it might be. And at that point, the need is already gone and you've not been able to meet that requirement of that big contract because that time has elapsed. So we've tried to keep our processes very brief and nimble so that we can get money turned around to these companies in a short amount of time so that they can actually address that critical need that they have.
So without some of the help you're able to provide, these people would have to start planning for financial shortfalls
Exactly.
way in the
Yeah.
future.
And the companies, as part of kind of the requirements for those loans, they have to be working with the partners in the space. So they can't come up to us and be like, "I need 3 grand." Yeah, well, don't we all, buddy? Like this is money is not the solution to all problems, especially if you don't have that understanding of what you would do with it, how you could use that 3,000 to make 30,000. That sort of coaching. So they have to be working with those partners in the space that are helping them identify what is that critical need, how does that critical need lead to the next thing for you, and so you know that's really critical. And most of these people have already maximized their business credit card, their business loan. Like it's not like they haven't invested their own personal finances, their own personal time. They're just at a critical moment where they need that support. So they would otherwise have to say no to that contract or not be able to fulfill that order. So those are the sorts of uh, funding opportunities that we're really looking to meet for people because when we think about why so many small businesses fail, which the rate is huge, and Wyoming is no exception, it comes down to some of these little bitty things, not these huge like, oh, they're terrible at business. They didn't have blah 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 blah. It often comes down to we got to this precipice and we couldn't get over that hill. And sometimes it feels like a pebble, sometimes it feels like a mountain. But either way, um, a lot of times it does truly originate at something relatively small that creates that downward trajectory for a business. So we're trying to overcome that. So that's kind of our second thing that we've been working on. So again, first is helping navigate the ecosystem and get those resources that are often free. The second thing is to help cover costs for people, whether that's to that kind of grant mechanism or through, again, helping pay for some legal fees because they're trying to get some intellectual property on an invention that they have. So those are examples of that kind of investment piece. And then the third piece is trainings. So we've tried to help support different trainings across the state, like statewide conferences and statewide training programs. So some examples, we've helped sponsor the uh, Entrepreneurship and Innovation Conference, or excuse me, I think it's Innovation and Entrepreneurship Conference at Central Wyoming College in April. And then we also have tried to put some support financially behind the generator programs, G Beta and G Alpha. And again, We want to make sure that those trainings are really available to people and that those conferences are available because they offer the sort of structured support that businesses often need in those early stages.
So for our listeners who aren't
Yes.
deep into the
Yes,
world,
absolutely.
what are the generator programs and what's the difference between the alpha and beta versions?
Absolutely. Really great clarifying question. So, Generator is a national organization that works with communities to just help create vibrant small business and large business environments. So, they try and support both. So, their G Alpha program is really that ideation stage. So, um, James has an idea and James is trying to figure out like, is it profitable? Would it work here? What's the market research say? G Alpha can help you kind of navigate what that startup process looks like. Um, their G Alpha really is focused more on scalable businesses that could be investable by a venture capital fund or something that just overall would be scalable. Even if the company maintains equity, it would be something that would be either grown and then sold or grown and like franchised or developed outside of um, maybe just a single location or a single state location. So those two programs provide support for two different stages of business that would lead to two different kind of outcomes. Certainly, some people from G Alpha would end up in the G Beta program, but not necessarily all of them. And those two programs are are supported through Microsoft here in town and other sponsorship. And so we're really proud to be alongside those organizations to try and help bring that funding up because we want those programs to stay and they're really, really well done. We've also provided sponsorship for like Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program, which again is a nationwide program. It's been around for 15 years. So we've tried to help advertise that, help get it spread throughout the state because those training programs are really, really great tools and resources for Wyoming small businesses. But we've also ventured into offering programs and trainings ourselves. And again, I'm not a marketing expert. I am not an expert on human resources. But we have noticed that those are some of the big needs that come up, especially as we're talking to some of our other partners like the Small Business Development Center. Like these are some of the things they see over and over again as well. So partnering with them to say, okay, what sort of training could we offer with your support or that would benefit your clients and some of the people that are coming into the business studio. So we're going to be offering those over the fall. And really, again, we've prioritized human resources. A lot of small businesses just cannot hire a full-time or part-time human resource expert. And so it's helpful to have some of those supports available. And then accounting, bookkeeping is something that just kind of constantly comes up. How do we do this? How do we add this particular person or this thing? And so we wanted to offer some training surrounding that, specific to small businesses and entrepreneurs that are at earlier stages. And then the final thing that we keep seeing again is marketing. There's a lot of individuals in that early stage that have to figure out how to do it themselves. And it's a really treacherous path to invest in marketing that doesn't do anything for you. That can be really expensive, but it's also really difficult to double that investment to go outside of your organization, if not triple your investment, but have real results. So it's a difficult balance for new businesses to figure out if they can be that marketing agency for themselves in the beginning. And so we're going to provide some of those trainings.
I've learned the hard way that even as a larger business, right? LCCC is not small by any
Yeah.
means, but
Yeah. Well established.
outreach is we're kind of off on our own a lot of times, and so
And it's impossible, right? With all the different social media, print media, radio, TV, like what is the right blend for any individual business?
not only do you have to learn how to do it, then you've got to
Yeah.
find the time to do it.
Right.
If you're starting up a
Yeah.
brand new business or a small business, your time is very valuable, right?
It is. And often you're creating a business around a specific skill set or passion or experience that you have. And if that's not marketing, you could be hurting yourself by actually doing poor marketing strategies or in the wrong stream of marketing. So it's a really tough nut to crack for, as you said, veteran businesses with entire marketing departments. So trying to help create some of those initial opportunities. We've worked with several different marketing companies to also create kind of business studio package, if you will, to help businesses that want a marketing agency to help them, but get them in at a smaller price point so that they can really start to create that um, accessible website uh, tied into their social media, really streamlined, has all the connectivity that they need, but maybe not starting out at that $10,000 price point that would be true of most marketing agencies for some of those more established companies.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah, ouch is right. But it's a huge error for small businesses to not consider marketing costs as part of their startup costs. And a lot of businesses have to focus the majority of their dollars into equipment or into rental space, things like that, and really neglect to think about
How do
how
I get customers in the door? How do I
and
get them to
yes,
know I
yes,
exist?
and how much that really can cost. So, so yeah, those are the three things that we focused on. And then, in terms of just like what we try and do is we want to meet every business where they stand. So if you're a 10-year business and you're actually looking to scale up or sell, like we want to help connect you to the resources you need to do both of those things. If you are coming out of the auto body program, or it's not auto body, auto mechanics program here at LCCC, and you want to create your own business, we want to help you at that stage too. And again, we aren't the expertise. I'm not going to be able to tell you step by step how to get your business from 0 to 100 and successful in 6 months. But we do have really good partners that we have referred people to that are showing really positive results. It's wonderful to have that shared commitment amongst multiple partners. As a small business, you realize that you're part of a community that's going to lift you up and you're not leaning on a single person or a single entity. And so we feel really fortunate that we have all those partners, and some of those just to um, make sure any small businesses that are listening, the Small Business Development Center across the state is incredible with the support that they provide for businesses. They have a very easy intake form on their website. If you work with us and them, you can even sign a waiver so we can share information back and forth. You certainly don't have to. But that's one way that we can collaborate with another organization. The Wyoming Women's Business Center is an excellent resource. They primarily support women business owners, but that's not necessarily the only entities they will support. And Impact 307 is located within the University of Wyoming, but it's still an organization that if you're in Laramie, it would be an excellent organization to connect with and see how they might be able to support you. And then the Wyoming Business Council also has a variety of programs that we have connected with, the Department of Workforce Services. So that's just a handful. SCORE is through the SBA, the Small Business Administration. They provided multiple mentors. Like we have an individual that's working on an app, and that's a fairly nuanced thing. Is how do you launch an app and get that in a cash flow state? And so we've actually connected them with the mentor through SCORE, which is a nationwide mentorship program. So just a variety of different partners that really work hard to fill some of those um, specific business support needs.
So a couple times you've mentioned you're not a business expert,
Yes.
but I know a little bit about your background, and this is not
Yeah.
the first time you've had to connect individuals to
Yes.
organizations.
Yes,
So
exactly.
can you give me a little bit on your background? You're just some
Absolutely.
people like, go, well, I'm not going to the person who's not a business
That's
expert.
right.
Can feel just
Let me tell you why.
more comfortable
Of
with
course.
dealing with.
Yes. And the reason that I am very clear about that is because we try really hard to not give any advice that would be outside of what we have expertise. And we want to be really careful that the people that give people business advice are giving sound business advice. So I just always want to be very clear about that. So my background is actually with workforce development, career pathways, creating training opportunities that meet career needs, workforce needs within a community. And so at this point in my career, I've built a very strong network within Southeast Wyoming, but also statewide with industry partners, with different types of organizations that either are for profit or not for profit. So within that space, one of the things that entrepreneurs and small businesses need more than anything is access to people's networks. That's one of the biggest determiners of success, right? Mentorship, access to networks, access to funds. So we're trying to meet all those needs. And so my strength really is creating that network that can support a small business. So when we meet with somebody and they're like, we have this really cool product, we need somewhere to pilot it, I can think of 5 people within our area that we can reach out to start getting that pilot going. So those are some of the benefits that that I personally bring, and also just program development and management. So when I look at what I've done in the past managing $1 million programs, it helps to have that experience going into here where you get a large chunk of money of taxpayer dollars, and having that background to know how's the best way to spend that, because it isn't buying a bunch of T-shirts and notebooks and pens. It is about getting that money back into the economy, back into those small businesses, back into taxpayer hands. And so those are the things that I bring from that director position, is really the strategy, the operational components. And so if people are thinking about using the Business Studio, those would be the components that they would be excited, is that we're going to do warm handoffs with people. We're going to sit in meetings with them, with individuals that might be able to give them a hand up, or a funder, or something like that, an investor. So those are the ways that we can best support. And then, of course, Braden Davis, my client experience coordinator, does have a degree in business and came out of the College of Business at UW. And so he has a great secondary network that involves a lot of people in that business space that's been really valuable.
Fantastic. Yeah, is getting your foot in the door, knowing who to talk to, and then actually getting that first meeting with them is huge.
That's what we feel like we can offer, is help get those breakthroughs, whether that's, again, funding through that critical moment, or the connection through that critical moment, or the support through a mentor or a partner through that critical moment, and then being able to provide the customer service to follow up over and over again as that cycle repeats, because it will in any business.
Always. Well, as long as you're in business.
That's right. Exactly.
That's
You want those.
the end goal.
If those go away, you've got a problem.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me today, Lindsey.
Yeah.
Again, thanks for watching, listening. We'll have Lindsey back on this show.
I hope so.
Not too long, I hope. A few weeks at most. Remember to subscribe and watch us on YouTube, Spotify, Castbox, and Amazon Music. You should be able to find this show on any of those networks. And for those of you who are either starting a small business, who have a small business and are looking to grow it, please reach out to Lindsey and her team at the Business Studio at LCCC.
Yeah.
And they are here to help you, regardless of what you may need, whether it's connections, whether it's training, help with funding, any of that.
Can't help you, we'll find somebody that can.
There you go. Have a great day.
I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow. I want tomorrow.